I'm Jeremy. Today we have reached a milestone. Today is day 300 of reading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Let's get started. 300 day milestone. Epic. I will consider doing a special. We are on page 511. Ooh, this is interesting to say the least. The final lesson of the afternoon, Double Potions felt feeling considerably more cheerful than he usually did when descending the steps to the dungeons. Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle were standing in a huddle outside the classroom door with Pansy Parkinson's gang of Slytherin girls. All of them were looking at something Harry couldn't see and sniggering heartily. Pansy's pug-like face peered excitedly around Goyle's broad back as Harry, Ron, and Hermione approached. There they are, she giggled, and the knot of the Slytherins broke apart. Harry saw that Pansy had a magazine in her hand. Which weekly? The moving pictures on the front showed a curly-haired witch who was smiling toothily and pointing a large sponge cake with her wand. You might find something to interest you in there, Granger, Pansy said loudly, and she threw the magazine at Hermione, who caught it, looking startled. At that moment, the dungeon door opened, and Snape beckoned them all inside. Hermione, Harry, Ron, and headed for a table at the back of the dungeon as usual. When Snape had turned his back on them to write up the ingredients of today's potions on the blackboard, Hermione hastily rifled through the magazine under the desk. At last, in the center pages, Hermione found what they were looking for. Harry and Ron leaned in closer. A color photograph of Harry headed a short piece entitled, Harry Potter's Secret Heartache. A boy like no other, perhaps, yet a boy suffering all the usual pangs of adolescence, writes Rita Skeeter. Deprived of love since the tragic demise of his parents, 14-year-old Harry Potter thought he had found solace in his steady girlfriend at Hogwarts. Muggle-born Hermione Granger. Little did he know that he would shortly be suffering yet another emotional blow in life already littered with personal loss. Miss Granger, a plain but ambitious girl, seems to have a taste for famous wizards that Harry alone cannot satisfy. Since the arrival of Hogwarts of Victor Crumb, Bulgarian seeker and hero of the last World Quidditch Cup, Miss Granger has been toying with both boys' affection. Crumb, who is openly smitten with the devious Miss Granger, has already invited her to visit him in Bulgaria over the summer holidays and insists that he has never felt this way about any other girl. However, it might not be Miss Granger's doubtful natural charms that have captured these unfortunate boys' interests. She's really ugly, says Pansy Parkinson, a pretty and vivacious fourth-year student. But she'd be well up to making a love potion. She's quite brainy. I think that's how she's doing it. Love potions are, of course, banned at Hogwarts, and no doubt Albus Dumbledore will want to investigate these claims. In the meantime, Harry Potter's well-wishers must hope that next time he bestows his heart on a worthier candidate. I told you, Ron hissed at Hermione as he stared down at the article. I told you not to annoy Rita Skeeter. She's made you out to some sort of Scarlet Woman. Hermione stopped looking astonished and snorted with laughter. Scarlet Woman? She repeated, shaking with suppressed giggles as she looked around at Ron. That's what my mom calls them, Ron muttered, his ears going red. If that's the best Rita can do, she's losing her touch, said Hermione, still giggling, as she threw Witch Weekly onto the empty chair beside her. What a pile of old rubbish! She looked over at the Slytherins, who were all watching her and Harry closely across the room to see if they had been upset by the article. Hermione gave them a sarcastic smile and a wave, and she, Harry, and Ron started unpacking the ingredients they would need for their wit-sharpening potion. There's something funny, though, said Hermione 10 minutes later, holding her pestle suspended over a bowl of scarab beetles. How could Rita Skeeter have known? Known what? Said Ron quickly. You haven't been mixing up love potions, have you? Don't be stupid, Hermione snapped, starting to pound up her beetles again. No, it's just, how did she know Victor asked me to visit him over the summer? Hermione blushed scarlet as she said this and determinedly avoided Ron's eyes. What? Said Ron, dropping his pestle with a loud clunk. He asked me right after he'd pulled me out of the lake, Hermione muttered, after he'd gotten rid of his shark's head. But up Humphrey gave us both blankets, and he sort of pulled me away from the judges so they wouldn't hear. And he said, if I wasn't doing anything over the summer, would I like to... And what did you say? Said Ron, who had picked up his pestle and was grinding it on the desk, a good 6 inches away from his bowl, because he was looking at Hermione. And he did say he never felt the same way about anybody else, Hermione went on, going sober now that Harry could almost feel the heat coming from her. But how could Rita Skeeter have heard him? She wasn't there, or was she? Maybe she has got an invisibility cloak. Maybe she sneaked onto the grounds to watch the second task. And what did you say? Ron repeated, pounding his pestle down so hard that it dented the desk. Well, I was too busy seeing whether you and Harry were okay too. Fascinating, though your social life undoubtedly is, Miss Granger, said an icy voice right behind them. All 3 of them jumped. I must ask you not to discuss it in my class. 10 points for Gryffindor. Snape had glided over to their desk while they were talking. The whole class was now looking around at them. Malfoy took the opportunity to flash Potter stinks across the dungeon at Harry. Reading magazines under the table as well, Snape added, snatching up the copy of Witch Weekly. A further 10 points from Gryffindor. Oh, but of course. Snape's black eyes glittered as they fell on Rita Skeeter's article. Potter has to keep up with his press cuttings. The dungeon rang with Slytherin's laughter, and an unpleasant smile curled Snape's thin mouth. To Harry's fury, he began to read the article aloud. Harry Potter's secret heartache. Dear, dear Potter, what's ailing you now? A boy like no other, perhaps. Harry could feel his face burning. Snape was pausing at the end of every sentence to allow the Slytherins a hearty laugh. The article sounded 10 times worse when read by Snape. Even Hermione was blushing scarlet now. Harry Potter's well-wishers must hope that next time he bestows his heart upon a worthier candidate. How very touching, sneered Snape, rolling up the magazine to continue gales of laughter from the Slytherins. Well, I think I had better separate the 3 of you so you can have your mind on your potions. Granger, rather than on your tangled love lives. Weasley, you stay here. Miss Granger, over there, beside Miss Parkinson. Potter, that table in front of my desk. Move, now. Furious, Harry threw his ingredients and his bag into his cauldron and dragged it up to the front of the dungeon to the empty table. Snape followed, sat down at his desk, and watched Harry unload his cauldron. Determined not to look at Snape, Harry resumed the mashing of his scarab beetles, imagining each one to have Snape's face. All this press attention seems to have inflated your already over-large head, Potter, said Snape quietly, once the rest of the class had settled down again. Harry didn't answer. He knew Snape was trying to provoke him. He had done this before. No doubt he was hoping for an excuse to take around 50 points from Gryffindor before the end of class. Thank you, everyone. That's all for today. Bye. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to read page 416. Okay. Bye-bye and peace out.